Yo, what's good, you guys? Your boy Ben Mahari here, represent Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Hope y'all been having a good week for everybody else, man. And I've been kind of busy, with other stuff in my life, though, man. And the only thing I'm gonna tell you guys is I'm getting something lined up for myself right now, and things are gonna start changing around my household. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. But thank y'all for staying with me on the channel, though, man. Hope y'all been having a good, week thus far. Hope y'all been staying safe out there for the most part. But the big news coming out of the NBA yesterday is the Russell Westbrook trade to the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, according to ESPN, um, the Los Angeles Lakers agreed to trade Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and the 22nd overall pick in last night's draft for Russell Westbrook. Also, the Wizards are going to send out the 2024 to 2028 second round picks to the Lakers, completing pretty much the deal. Now, before that deal was going to take place, um, the Lakers had some talks about bringing in Buddy Hield to the Lakers. According to the Athletic, the Wizards were also. I'm sorry, the Sacramento Kings were in talks about about trading Buddy Hield, involving both Kuzma and Harrell. But then afterwards, those talks just went the other way, and they basically focused their attention on Russell Westbrook, which completed the deal. Now, with that being said, Harrell also opted out of his $9.7 million player option deal for next season earlier on Thursday, basically paving the way for the deal. So, and as for the Wizards for that 22nd overall pick, they basically took the pick and spun it to the Indiana Pacers for point guard Aaron Holiday, who is the younger brother and the current USA basketball team member Drew Holiday, who just won the NBA championships. Congratulations to him. And then with that pick, the Pacers took Kentucky forward Isaiah Jackson. So that's pretty much the parameters of what happened, last night. Now, a lot of talk and a lot of speculation has been going around about how this impacts the NBA, how this impacts the landscape, and how this deal is going to really shape out for the Lakers. Now, the last time I saw something like that from the Lakers, you have to go all the way back to the 2012-2013 season. Specifically during the summer of 2012. Because remember, the Lakers pulled off a massive deal getting Dwight Howard from Orlando. Okay, basically they did was it a 14 trade deal that the Lakers sent Andrew Bynum to Philadelphia, and basically the Lakers got Dwight Howard in return. Now they also brought in Steve Nash, who was basically 38 years old at the time, coming back from hip and leg injuries, and so many people had that team as the favorite to come out of the West and been basically represent the West for the NBA championship. Well, that didn't work out well. They went to a 1-4 start. They changed to like three different coaches during that year, and Dwight Howard went through some grueling back injuries and really didn't want to be in LA. He actually wanted to be in Brooklyn during that period, and then basically Kobe, tore his Achilles and was pretty much done for the rest of the year, and had to pretty much spend the last 2 years of his career in rehabbing from those injuries. And so here's what I see from this whole situation. Okay, here's how I would have done it. If I wanted to get Buddy Hield and get Russell Westbrook, what I would have done is I would have traded both Harrell and Kuzma to the Kings for Buddy Hield. Then I would have traded uh, Dennis Schroeder and basically a future first round pick to the Wizards for Russell Westbrook. That in a way I would have done it that way, because then you would have had both shooting and the playmaking ability of Russell Westbrook. Now, with that being said, I think that the Buddy Hield possibility is still a little bit on the table, but then at the same time, you know, the deal may not commence itself. And let's be real about something here. There were basically three different plans that the Lakers had heading into that offseason. The first option was landing Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal. Obviously, those trades were never going to happen. Bradley Beal made it clear that he wasn't leaving Washington, and pretty much Damian Lillard shut those trade rumors down completely on social media. All right. Then Plan B was basically trying to land Chris Paul, but obviously the Suns made it to the NBA Finals and were only 4-2 victories away from the championship. And so that in of itself was not going to happen. So Buddy Hield was going to be Plan C. But also in Plan B was if Chris Paul was not going to have gonna was not going to be in Los Angeles, then Russell Westbrook would be in his place. So basically, they completed Plan B, and Buddy Hield in itself was always going to be Plan C no matter what. Now, the thing that I have an issue with this team is that you got Russell Westbrook, great, but the thing that I'm worried about this team is that Russell Westbrook, to me, as great as he's been throughout his career, he's really burned bridges with a lot of superstars throughout his career. And I believe and LVZ mentioned about this last night. He burned bridges with Kevin Durant when they were in OKC together. He burned bridges with James Harden when he was in Houston. And if you want to go back to OKC, he kind of burned bridges with Paul George, okay? Because they could have been something good in OKC, but that didn't work out. You burned bridges with Victor Oladipo, okay? Then you burn bridges, obviously, with James Harden. Then you were in Washington. You kind of burn bridges with Bradley Beal. Now you're in a situation where now you're back home in Los Angeles. Remember, Russell Westbrook went to college in UCLA. He's a LA kid at heart. Now you're back in Los Angeles playing for your hometown team, the Lakers. Now you're not just playing with just any other All Star teammates. You're teaming up with probably the best overall player in the NBA of all time for many people's eyes, in LeBron James, and one of the best big men in the NBA, Anthony Davis. So, with that being said, all this pressure to me is going to be not just on Russell Westbrook, but it's going to be on the Lakers. All right, because here's the thing: as much as I like to trade a bit. The issue is that the Lakers right now don't have shooters. They don't have shooters that can space the floor and shoot the ball. Now, the way I look at it is they're obviously going to be looking for some shooters that could possibly, space the floor. Now, a person is going to ask me, well, what is that? What is going to do? What's going to happen to Dennis Schroeder? At this point, the Lakers can negotiate an extension for Dennis Schroeder, but the downside is they cannot negotiate a new contract that relies on the guard hitting free agency, right? Because the Lakers, they could talk to Schroeder about a possible sign and trade deal as late as August 2nd, but the possibility of that, you know, growing Washington deal to a multi-team agreement could possibly bring in Buddy Hield in that aspect. But the other thing is that Schroeder's going to be in competition with several other free agents like Kyle Lowry, Lonzo Ball, Mike Conley, and Spencer Dinwiddie, and Paul himself if he decides to opt out of the final years of his contract. So he might get himself squeezed into the mix of a very deep free agency, point guard class. But if he does, Schroeder may need the Lakers to get a suitable payday and to be able to sign and trade. But on the other side of the coin, Sacramento, the other side of the coin is Sacramento because if they're not getting Kuzma and Harrell and they are interested in signing Hill to the Kings already have De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, so they don't really need Dennis Schroeder, but he could possibly be a piece for the Wizards to consider, for them in their future plans. But the bottom line I'm trying to tell y'all is that unless they give Dennis Schroeder a new deal, he's going to leave as a free agent. Best believe that's going to happen. So, with that being said, what do the Lakers need? Shooters. This is why right now, if you're the Lakers, you got to look at guys like JJ Redick, you know what I'm saying, and old ass Wade Ellington. I forgot that he's still in the league. It's been that long though. It's crazy. But yeah, you're gonna have to look at shooters like Redick, shooters like Ellington, any good shooters from the free agency market that's gonna come to take some mid mid level exception deals, to come play for the Lakers, right? So that could be possible. And then the Lakers are going to keep, and the Lakers, I believe, are going to keep you know, Caruso. They're going to keep Horton Tucker. You know what I mean? And so, with that being said, they need shooters. All right. So if the mid-level exception does not go to Andre Drummond, then they may try to land a player, maybe like a Otto Porter Jr., you know, a Doug McDermott, a Reggie Bullock, a Malik Monk, or Brian Forbes, or Florian Korkmaz to come over to play for the Lakers to try to, help spread the floor with their shooting. But the Lakers also need help in terms of their defense on the wing, because making the trade for Caldwell Pope and Kuzma to get Russell Westbrook, does some weaknesses in terms of their defense a bit in the backcourt, which could be possible outcomes, like a possible return for Josh Hart to come play for the Lakers, veteran Trevor Ariza, who used to play for the Lakers, and Kobe, or Garrett Temple. But the other possibility is if DeMar DeRozan wants to come to Los Angeles for cheap, um, the Lakers wouldn't have to offer too much to bring him over. Because even though DeMar DeRozan is mostly a mid-range shooter, he could basically come off the bench and supply some scoring off the bench. So that in of itself, there's some possibilities. But the thing that I'm most worried about is I alluded to this earlier. The one thing I'm worried about is that how is Russell Westbrook going to fit with once again another trio of stars. We've seen what happened in OKC with James Harden and with Kevin Durant, and how that didn't work out. You know what I mean? Not just because the fact that the Thunder should have gave him the contract extension to James Harden, probably would have softened all their blows, but because of the fact that every game we saw, Russell Westbrook was taking, the last shots instead of Kevin Durant. And and some of it has a lot to do with the media playing a role in the dissension of the team. And absolutely, that played a huge role in that. But a lot of it was also Russell Westbrook's doing too. And when he was the lone man in OKC getting all them triple doubles, it didn't really amount to much success in the postseason because opponents exposed that if he doesn't get his numbers in a triple double, you know what I mean, this typically his team is going to lose. And even with a co-star, he has issues of not accepting the fact that he's now, that he basically had to share the opportunity and the wealth with another player that has his equal talent with him. You know what I mean? So those are the things that I'm kind of looking at. How this is going to fit for the Lakers. Obviously, on paper, they basically are the favorites. But we're gonna see when the season starts how this team is going to mesh. Now, don't be surprised if the Lakers get off to a slow start because they're still trying to figure themselves out, trying to figure out the pieces of their team, what roles of the stars are going to play with each other. You know what I'm saying? So don't be surprised if this team maybe starts out maybe 2-4, 3-5, something like that. Don't be surprised if they start off slow as they try to, figure out their identity of this new team with the new faces on the roster. But the bottom line is the pressure's still on the Lakers to come out and win the championship. And considering the fact what Milwaukee was able to do to win the championship, and you still got Phoenix in the midst, barring if Chris Paul stays and does not opt out of the final year of his contract. Okay, you still got Denver to deal with. All right, and you still got Portland, who's still listen. Portland's on borrowed time right now, with Damian Lillard. All right, they have to improve the team if they're going to have a chance. Then you still got the Clippers are still in the mix, barring what happens to Kawhi Leonard in terms of his injury and where he wants to go, after next season. And so right now, it's the landscape of the NBA is starting to jilt a little bit in the Lakers' favor. But we're going to see how the season starts, how this team is going to mesh. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you believe that Russell Westbrook is going to really help the Lakers improve their chances of a championship, or is it going to be the same old cycle that we've seen from Russell Westbrook in recent years with OKC, with Houston, and with Washington? So let me know what you think in the comment section below. And with that, I'm out. Peace.